Fire the generals now before it's too late. Well, what generals? Nearly all of them. All the generals that we've been having that are both on active duty, that were on active duty, or that have been retired and are going on television all the time, I cannot stress to you enough how bad their advice is and how contrary it is to actual military reality on the ground. And when we're listening to them and they're giving us advice about things that we should do in contradiction to the actual reality on the ground, they are leading us down a path, especially if our leaders follow their advice, because they didn't serve, they haven't been in combat, so they don't know. If we keep acting on this advice, our interests are going to eventually be so harmed that we may not be able to recover. Let me show you a little bit about what we're talking about. This whole list of some of our senior guys who were either generals, admirals, or the commander-in-chief, as you'll see at the end. Listen to what they're saying, and let me tell you why it's a problem on the back end.
We will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes to keep them free, sovereign, with their territory intact.
As an American, I could never imagine anyone telling us when to stop fighting, and I can't imagine that we would ever tell Ukraine when to stop fighting.
As long as it takes means as long as it takes, and President Zelensky gets determined what victory looks like. What we've said is we're going to continue to help them defend themselves, defend their sovereignty, win back their territory, as they should.
I think it's very much in the interest of all NATO and all Western countries to make sure that Russia cannot succeed and that Ukraine is able to liberate all of its territory, join the EU, join NATO.
Having already provided a very substantial amount, $44 billion is not trivial. It's very necessary. In my view, this is as right versus wrong as it gets.
We are going to stick with Ukraine, and all of the alliance are going to stick with Ukraine as long as it takes. It's worth fighting for as long as it takes, and that's how long we're going to be with you, Mr. President, for as long as it takes.
This is as right versus wrong as it gets. And if this sounds familiar, it should, because these are the same kind of nonsense that our generals have been talking about for decades, of claiming one thing is true when something on the ground shows the exact opposite. How many times General Petraeus or CIA Director Petraeus go before Congress, or secretaries of defense or deputy secretaries of defense, all these people in Congress, all these generals, all the time going on TV, incessantly telling you things are getting better. We're on the right azimuth. We've made the changes necessary. The Afghan people are getting better ad infinitum. You remember it. How many times do you hear that from the generals? I'll tell you, every time. Anytime there was a general on television or before Congress, they always told you that. What happened in August of 2021? Everything they said was exposed as a lie.
If Ukraine goes to the bargaining table, or if Ukraine loses this war, you might as well say the U.S. lost the war. And if we abandon the Ukrainians, then we have lost just as much as the Ukrainians have lost. Let's get the funding in there. But this war is going to take some time. I think it's going to take years. So they will need sustainable funding and predictable funding for the long term.
What do you mean that it's just as bad for America as it is for Ukraine? Ukraine's cities have been wiped out. They have lost hundreds of thousands of people. Even if America doubled everything that it had done from 2022 to 2023, it's clearly not going to matter, because the Russian side's not static. Now, upon what basis should the American people say, yes, I want to send another $100 billion of my money to Ukraine to fail? There is no prospect, zero. No one's even offering any rationale. They're simply saying, we need to send them more money, or like this general yesterday, for years. We just need a sustained money flow. Folks, we can't even pass our own budget. And you want to send money on a perpetual basis to another country that will not work. Why do we want to do this, folks? Listen to me. It is time to start holding people accountable. Look, you don't have to be a military genius to look at a map and see that after years of effort, it did zero on the map. Money to Ukraine should have had strings on it. It should have said, hey, we're not going to fund something that's going to be counterproductive, but we didn't. We just said, here's a bunch of cash, and now we're asking for more. They should say, okay, this isn't going to work. It's time to do something different. we need to try with all humility and suck down whatever crow we need to. We need to have a negotiated settlement. It's time to end this. Ukraine is not going to overcome Russia, and we should not keep throwing money around. That general is wrong. Plain and simple. And every American politician that keeps trying to push more money for Ukraine with no strings attached and no idea how it's going to accomplish anything for either Ukraine or America is wrong. Ukraine could literally lose the war. They might not even get a chance to have a negotiated settlement if we don't take some action pretty quick. If we care about Ukraine, it's time to do something different and change the dynamics.